Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you are doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, Skyrim, the adventure game, has a very big but. And that but can be looked at in two different ways. It is a game that I love, but it has a ton of major issues. Conversely, it is a game with a ton of major issues, but I love it. So, how do I structure this review? Should I start with the praise, with all of the good things? This can lead to some issues. I know for a fact that most people only watch about 5 minutes of any video I post. So if they only hear the good, they might rush out and buy the game and then get mad at me for making them buy a game with a ton of issues, a game that's really hard to learn. But because people only watch about 5 minutes of my videos, if I start with the bad, people might think it's a bad game that I dislike and possibly deprive themselves of a great tabletop experience. So I guess the real moral of this story of this review is, hey, watch the whole video. That's how you can be the most informed to make a good decision. But I have decided to structure my review to mirror my experience with the game. So unfortunately, that means starting with the bad and then eventually getting to all of the good. If you want to skip my criticisms and just go to the praise part of this review, I will put a time link below. I will pin that and it will also be in the description. So, Skyrim, the adventure game from Modifius. The first major hurdle of Skyrim is the price. This thing is ridiculously expensive, especially for what you get. I'm going to post on screen right now some screenshots from the Modifius web store, and you can see just how expensive this game is. The manufacturer's suggested retail price for the base game is $149. Each major expansion is $85. Holy crap, that is so much money for what you get in those expansions. If you want to upgrade your components, the metal coins are $45. And for those of you who prefer neoprene mats, the neoprene mat for this game is $90. The neoprene mat costs 2 times what some other great games cost. It is just ridiculous. It's one of the most expensive games to get into that I know of. You could buy 2 copies of Freelancers for the same price as the base game. You could buy a copy of Freelancers for less than the price of one of the expansions. These are very premium prices, and I don't have an issue with a premium priced game as long as it offers a premium experience. And for a game to have a premium experience, it needs to just not be a good game, but everything about the game needs to offer up that same kind of premium experience. And Skyrim really does fail in that regard. With the price of the game, you might think you're getting a whole bunch of minis or a whole bunch of plastic, and you're really not. You're getting a small handful, I think 5 or 6 or so minis. One of the expansions comes with 4 minis. I think the other one might come with 2 or maybe a handful. It's not a lot of plastic. You're paying for a lot of cardboard, and the cardboard itself is okay. It's not the highest quality. You might think that you're paying for a lot of writing, a lot of good, maybe they paid their writers a lot, the quest writers. I think the quest writing is okay, and there really isn't a lot of it. I would actually like more writing, and you guys know me, I usually like less reading in my board games. When I want to read, I will turn to a short story or a novel. But it's pretty skimpy on the lore, pretty skimpy on the flavor text. So, hey, you might think, well, maybe I'm paying a lot for a lot of great art. Well, hey, that is another area where Skyrim completely falls flat. But let's start where it falls the flattest, and I think that is in the documentation. I like a game with good documentation, and unfortunately, the Skyrim, the adventure board game, just completely fails in that regard. One of the expansions, From the Ashes, actually doesn't come with any documentation, so I don't even know if I received everything that I was supposed to receive in my box. It doesn't have a component list. It doesn't have a rule chart or sheet at all. So it's very difficult to incorporate. It's very difficult to know what you're supposed to do with all the stuff in that expansion. Luckily, the Dawnguard expansion does come with some documentation, and it is okay. But this can be a very difficult game to learn just from the rulebook, because there are quite a few issues with its structure and in how it relays the rules, how it's organized. The lack of a glossary, the lack of an index really hurts it. So it's one of the least pleasant learning experiences that I have had with this kind of big premium priced game. So when I originally did my unboxing, I was kind of negative in my unboxing. It wasn't filling me with the anticipation of experiencing a great game. And a lot of that had to do with what I had heard about learning the game. I had heard that it was difficult. I had heard that it was hard to get set up. And over a couple weeks after my unboxing, I found that all to be true. And I was very, very close to just boxing everything up and selling it, but I'm glad I didn't. I stuck with it. I watched a whole bunch of Let's Play videos out there, even ones that make a lot of mistakes. I don't think there's probably not a single video out there where the game is played perfectly or even close to it. But as I started watching the videos of the game, I started to learn the game more. I developed a want to play the game. And so then I came to the rulebook. Now, the game does come with a tutorial. And the tutorial is in the scenario book. And the tutorial is on the flip side. I don't think I recommend learning the game from the tutorial. I don't think it's a very good tutorial. I think this is a tutorial kind of like Dungeons of Infinity, in that it teaches you how to play the tutorial. But when you go to the regular game, you're kind of left scratching your head, asking a lot of questions, and then it's very difficult to find those answers in the rulebook. So what I recommend you doing to learn the game is read through the entire rulebook and then watch a couple videos. Just go to YouTube and search for Skyrim Let's Play board game and watch a couple videos and then come back and then reread the rulebook, and things will start to make sense. But it is a challenge to learn the game just from this rulebook. I think the component page here is pretty poor. One issue I had is it says that you have 196 different item cards. Hey, that's great. We all like a lot of item cards, right? However, those item cards come in this deck, they come in this deck, they come in this deck, and they come in these 3 decks. So these are all the item cards. Each one of these decks is kind of handled in a certain way. Actually, we have another deck of item cards. So it shows you, hey, you get 196 item cards, but what are each one of these item card decks for? Do I shuffle them? Do I leave them alone? When are they used in the game? When it references one, I like to come to the components page and look for the back of that card and say, oh, okay, so this is the equipment deck. And it shows the equipment deck here. It shows the back of that card. And I know that that's the equipment deck. I know that this is the A treasure or the B treasure. I know what these are for. I know what these dragon treasures are for. But it doesn't show you the individual components. It just kind of lumps them all together in a group. And it makes it very hard to, while you are learning the game, to know which one is which and what you do with each. Another major issue with the rulebook is it tells you how to set up and how to start the game, but that's only true if you are playing the game from the very beginning, if you are playing the game from the first chapter of the first campaign. And I guess most people will start the game there, but I think it does a pretty bad job of teaching you how you continue the game, of what you do, maybe if you just want to start in a different mode or something like that. It also front loads a lot of information without any context, and it's kind of structured in a weird way. We have starting the game. Again, though, this is only if you are starting the game from a very specific point. And then we get into a flowchart for your turn actions. But turn actions are actually a part of the turn sequence. So the turn sequence should have come here. Then the turn actions should have come after the turn sequence. And then we get into the combat reference guide, and sneaking and disarming actually come over here in between one of these steps. And so that is kind of confusing. And the whole book is kind of structured in that way. It seems to have 3 or 4 different beginning points. And it's kind of like, remember when in The Office, when Michael Scott was at Phyllis's wedding and he tried out 3 or 4 different introductions to his speech. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like they have 4 different starting points in the rulebook and they don't really know how to structure it after that. And then it gets into all of the actual rules. And from what I can tell, most of the rules are in here. And once you do start getting the game down, it's not a difficult game to play. It is simply a difficult game to learn. Now, I'm not going to make the claim that I have been playing 100% correct. I doubt anybody has ever played this game 100% right, but I am playing it right enough to where I'm having a good time. And because I am only playing solo, that means that I don't really need to worry about it being fair to other players if I'm getting something wrong. Now, one thing that is really difficult is when you are trying to look something up in this book, that can be a real pain in the butt because it doesn't have a glossary, it doesn't have an index, and the table of contents is just okay. And so it makes looking up, it makes referencing this as a rule book while you are playing very, very difficult. But I stumbled my way through a couple games and I finally got to where I feel comfortable playing, but this was a pretty major hurdle to get over. I spoke a little bit about the rulebook, about the lack of context of how the rulebook was structured and how that can be an issue. When you are designing documentation, you need to provide context to the reader so they understand what they are reading. And I think the lack of context is kind of a big issue with this game in general. I think the Skyrim IP is actually a pretty big disadvantage because I believe that the designers expected the players to know things about this world, to know things about the lore. They relied on players being familiar with the video game as a crutch to not have to worry about the world building on the tabletop in the game that they were creating. So many story elements of this game get completely brushed over. They are not detailed on the various cards. For instance, what is a standing stone? I have this stone here. Well, I know what a standing stone is because I've played the board game or I've played the video game. But somebody just coming to this game, they wouldn't even really know what this is. And that kind of happens over and over again. Who are the major players? What is going on in this world? What is the background? None of that is really conveyed to the players while you are playing the game. And I think that can be a pretty big issue. The cards that tell the stories have a ton of empty space on them, space that could have been used for environmental storytelling with art and with more flavor text. I want to show you a couple examples right now of some quest cards from the Dawn Guard expansion. Yes, there are 3 different quest cards right here. Each one of those quest cards has 1, 2, 3 words on it and 3 numbers and 2 icons. This one even has less. There is so much wasted space in this game on all of the cards. They could have bumped this up a little bit and had some really nice art. And it's not like there is a lack of Skyrim art out there. I'm sure Bethesda has tons and tons of concept art and cool art that they could have provided. I'm sure Modifius, they're not a small little scrappy company. They're kind of a known company. They could have paid for some more art, especially with the prices that we, the players, are paying for this game. The graphic design and the lack of art in this game is another huge hurdle, and it does a big disservice to creating that kind of experience that we are looking for in these games where we have a connection to what is going on the table and the things on the card, the writing, the flavor text, the fluff text, and the art. It sparks our imagination. It creates a tangible kind of thread that we can connect to the world that we are playing in. And unfortunately, a lot of the times, the Skyrim adventure game falls flat in that regard. Speaking of a lack of art, also are the monster tokens for the roaming monsters. I'm going to show you two tokens from the Dawn Guard expansion, and I'm not making this up. There is art there, and you can't see anything, especially on camera. I can make out a tiny, tiny little sliver of a person's face on that chit there. But these are the monsters that you are fighting in the game. Just absolutely terrible. I don't know what they were thinking with this. Just did somebody must have looked at these tokens when they were producing the game and thought, okay, we need to do something about that, because that looks like you're just throwing a black triangle on there. But there is art there, I swear to you. This equipment card here, a lot of the art in the game is screenshots from the game, from the video game. Now, I'm not fundamentally against using screenshots in board games from other things, from like movies or TV shows or comic books or video games. That's fine. I know some people think it's a little lazy, and I would prefer to have original hand-drawn art, but I'm okay with screenshots. However, the screenshots in this game are really poor quality. And so that's another thing. You're paying a premium price, so they're already a little cheaping out by using screenshots, but the screenshots themselves just aren't very good quality. On the monster chits, you can hardly see them. This iron armor, I can't even tell what that is. I'm not sure exactly what I am looking at when I am looking at that piece of iron armor there. The contrast on the cards is really bad. Like this axe, the handle is so dark, it just kind of fades into the background, and it doesn't look very appealing. The character art is really lo-fi there. And, the video game has been updated with mods and with new texture packs and all of this over the last decade. And the video game for Skyrim hasn't looked this bad since 2011 when it came out. And I'm not quite sure what they were going for with the overall look of this game. One of the biggest pieces of original art in the game is this map. And this is one area where I would have preferred it if they had used the map from the video game, because the map from the video game actually does have some detail. This thing has almost no detail. The different areas, the different holds are outlined in these weird kind of neon glowing lines that don't look fantasy at all. It looks more like something out of a science fiction thing, and the colors are really poor. I'm not quite sure what they were going for with that. The roads are just these kind of pale yellow noodle things going around. You don't have any detail in any of the various major holds or settlements or caves. It's just not a very nice looking game. And again, we are paying a premium price. I would expect a premium experience, and that also has to do with the art. This game could have been an amazing introduction into the realms of hobby tabletop games for a huge audience who were historically only interested in video games. I can imagine, I would bet that quite a few people who love Skyrim, the video game, bought this as one of their, or maybe their very first big hobby gaming experiences. And tabletop games already have a somewhat bad reputation of being hard to learn, hard to play, hard to get to the table, hard to set up, being fiddly and nerdy, and you have to spend a whole bunch of time moving things around. And this game really only reinforces that stereotype. I can imagine people getting this game, and this game actually pushing people away from the hobby rather than embracing them into it. Unfortunately, I think that Modiphius has been a poor steward of the setting and the IP. This would have been a perfect game for that fabled long tail that I'm always talking about. It's practically set up for to easily expand, to add things. It's tailor-made for the kind of small modular impulse purchase expansions that we used to see Fantasy Flight do with Runebound. It has a built-in dedicated audience that would be into keeping this game alive and thriving for many, many years. But unfortunately, I would bet that we're probably never going to see another official thing for this version of Skyrim. I also wanted to talk real quickly because I forgot to mention that, but the card holders, this is another area where the documentation just completely falls flat. So you have a whole bunch of cards. You have your card library in this game. And all of these various cards have different purposes. These are quests, these are encounters, adventures, and combat encounters and followers and all of those things. And they're all numbered basically from 1 to about 800 or so. And you get some dividers. You get your divider for your 100s, your 200s, your 300s, your 400s, your 500s. All of your Dawn Guard stuff basically goes in the 500s. You get your 600s, and then there are a whole bunch of 700 cards, but you don't get a divider for the 700 cards. What? You don't get an divider for your encounter cards. You don't get a divider for your event cards. You don't get a divider for your dungeon cards. You don't get a divider for your miscellaneous cards, for your small little modular expansion cards that come with from the Ashes. You don't get a divider for the cards that you remove from the game in this kind of light legacy mode while you are playing the game. And so it's really odd that they don't give you any kind of additional dividers for all of the other cards. Again, another very, very odd issue. It just seems like over and over again, when Modiphius got to a point in the design of this game where they had to make a decision, they often made the wrong decision. So yeah, there are a lot of flaws with Skyrim, the adventure game. But, here comes the big but. I absolutely love this game. I have had this game set up for over 2 weeks now, and I have played the heck out of it. I've played through the first campaign once completely. This right here is a few turns into the second chapter of the first campaign. Again, in between those campaigns, I have played multiple games of the free roaming mode, and I have loved my time with this game. I am so happy that I stuck with it. I'm happy that I took the time to learn it and to get everything set up. And I've just had a fantastic experience with this game. There were 2 days in a certain period of time where I actually woke up early to go out to the table. I had this set up in the kitchen for a while during the holiday season. And I woke up early so I could go out and play the game. I was thinking about it when I woke up. I was thinking about the game while I wasn't playing it. And for me, that is always the sign of a good game. So let's talk about the things that I love about this epic adventure game. 1, it's reasonably quick to set up and take down for such a big game. And it also actually does fit on my small table. So you guys know I have a pretty small gaming table in my small hobby room. It's 3x4. And I can fit everything for a solo game on this main table with one chit tray on a TV tray that I have to the side. So this has all of my chits that I would need, but everything else for a solo game does easily fit on my small gaming table. So it doesn't take up a ton of room, especially for solo play. And I experimented a little bit with tearing it down and setting it back up. And I actually timed myself because I wanted to see how long it took. And to save the game while you are playing, it takes about 10 minutes. To reset up the game from the save state, it takes about 10 or 15 minutes. So it's not unbearable. It's a little longer than some games, but for a fiddly game like this, 10 or 15 minutes to tear down and set up is actually really good. I also really like the character system and the way that the characters progress. I think it's a really good game on that kind of character level. I am playing here as an Arismer, and I have a special power of Berserk. And then after I learn a couple skills, I get a couple more powers. So each one of the major characters will have a suggested route that you want to go down while you are learning skills, so you can hone your power and you can become more powerful in the thing that makes them innately powerful. So this is my character here. This is my character chart here. So far, I'm kind of at level 4. So I have learned 4 skills. I've learned the smithing skill, the two-handed skill, the lock-picking skill, and the speech skill. The character cards have a place for you to keep your experience points. They have a place for you to keep your gold and for you to keep your resources here. and you can level up to level 8. And then once you progress past level 8, then you can start learning the legendary versions of each one of these skills, and you just flip those over and you will get an additional power. I like the way the skills work. I like the way that the skills work in tandem with your armor and your weapons, and what they allow you to do during the game when you are overcoming challenges and quests by rolling dice. The skills will allow you to roll more dice or allow you to re-roll dice. You can get all kinds of different gear. The gear in this game is pretty cool. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. You can also get followers, and I do highly recommend you get a follower as soon as you can. There's a pretty large stack of followers in the library of cards, but I've only come across one, so I'm not exactly sure how to get more. There are a lot of things like that in the game where I have seen other people play the game up to the same point that I am, and they have had pretty different experiences, and I think that is super cool. But this follower is pretty great. Right now, so my guy's he kind of has a big two-handed F-off weapon. I have this iron battle axe. I am equipped with iron armor. I'm a heavy armor guy. I have a silver amethyst ring. I am part of the warrior stone, so that standing stone there, the warrior. And I've also aligned myself with some cannibals. Whenever I clear a human enemy, I actually gain some health. And you can keep track of your health, of your stamina, and your magicka there. Magicka you spend to cast spells. Stamina you use to swing your weapon or to dodge. And then health, of course, is how many hit points you have. And the white tokens here, those are the maximum. And the color tokens represent where your health and your stamina and your magicka are on that track. And for your health, you do have this, what do they call this? A last blow, a final blow token. And this is a pretty interesting concept where this stops you from losing health in one fatal blow. So if my health was down to here and I took 3 points of damage, I would actually only take 2. I would go 1, 2, and then I would stop there. And it gives you that kind of last heroic moment to do something cool to get out of that predicament to survive. And the health, stamina, and magicka are also kind of a currency that you can use when you are not in combat. You heal all of your health. You don't really have to worry about healing in this game unless you are in combat. Then you have to worry about using your potions. But outside of combat, you automatically heal, and then you spend your stamina to do certain things that your weapons and that your equipment allow you to do. It's a really neat system. There are a whole bunch of different skills that you can learn while you are playing the game when you level up. So you have a whole bunch of different might skills there, and each one of those, of course, has the regular and the legendary mode. And then you have a whole bunch of shadow skills and a whole bunch of sorcery skills. And all of these come into play while you are playing the game, not just in how you are rolling dice, but when you are attempting quests, when you are going on adventures. They will often refer to your skills, and they will give you different opportunities to engage with the game in different ways. So related to the character progression, I also really like the loot and the crafting system in this game. It's really fun, it's simple, it's quick, but it adds a lot of flavor to the game. So there are a whole bunch of different items that you can buy when you go to one of the strongholds. You can visit the market and you can buy things that are for warriors or things that are for rangers or rogues or thieves. And then you can also buy things that are good for magic users. And each one of these has, the kind of typical weapons that you would expect for those different classes, your swords and your heavy armor for your warriors. Then you have, of course, your light armor and your elf things, your lock picks and your bows and things like that for your rangers. And then for your magic users, of course, you have different kind of crowns, circlets, and different kinds of spells and robes and potions and staves and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. So when you go to visit a market, you can interact with this deck here to buy things. And there's also a deck of equipment cards. And most of these equipment cards will be things that your characters start with. However, each one of these equipment cards can also be crafted by using these various elements here. We have ore and we have the We have soul gems, and we have, let me grab some ore here, these tiny little, not premium tokens. We have ore and soul gems, and these can be used to craft not just items, but also upgrades for the items. So basically anything in this equipment deck can be crafted. So you can craft this iron battle axe for 2 ore. You can craft this longbow for 2 ore. Basically everything costs either 2 ore or 2 soul gems to craft. And then you can also craft some potions by using these plant-based resources there. And then each one of these items can also be upgraded a certain number of times. So a lot of the weapons can be enchanted or upgraded. And so you spend 2 of the soul gems there to enchant it, or you might spend 2 ore to upgrade that weapon, or to upgrade your rings or your necklaces or your armor. And then when you do that, depending on the skills that you have in blacksmithing or in enchanting, and again, other ways that this is all tied into your character class and character progression, a really good marriage of systems here. But you will get to draw a certain number of enchantment and upgrade cards. And each one of these cards is multiple use, where the enchantment is up above, the upgrade below is for armor, and the upgrade to the right is for weapons. And so right now, for instance, I have an iron battle axe, and my iron battle axe is fortified. So that gives me a +1 to my heavy armor. And also I have a +1 to my damage when I am using the chop ability. And so that is really cool. And I really do like the combat in this game, and we'll talk about the combat in a little bit. I also have here my iron armor. I have enchanted my iron armor with frost damage. So when I'm facing this kind of opponent, I can't remember who that is. I think that's an undead or a vampire. I can't remember, or human. I gain +1 damage to all of my attacks. So my iron armor allows me to do some frost damage. And my iron armor also gives me a +1 to my light defense. So there are 2 different kinds of defense, heavy and light, and those block certain types of damage. I also have a silver amethyst ring here, and I have enchanted that with fire damage. When I'm facing an undead, I gain a +1 to all of my attacks. And there are all kinds of different ways to enchant and to upgrade your gear. And this system is really, really fun. And I like how this is tied to our character progression, to our skills, because as we get better in blacksmithing, when we upgrade, we can draw more cards to choose from. As we upgrade our skill of enchantment, then we can draw more enchantment cards when we enchant our gear. Very, very cool system. I like the marriage there. I like how everything is kind of intertwined. We also have these 2 treasure decks here, and these are often given as rewards for when you complete certain quests or tasks. You have the A deck and the B deck. The B deck is, I think the B deck is a little better. It's you want to draw from the B deck when you can. These items are a little more powerful, I believe. I can't remember. Maybe I'm getting that mixed up. But yeah, it looks like I'm getting it mixed up. I think the A deck is actually the one that you want to try to draw from. But you will fight different kinds of enemies and complete different quests, and then you will get to draw from these 2 different loot decks as rewards. So that's always a lot of fun. And a lot of the items you get in there are pretty cool. And then we also have this powerful like dragon artifacts, these dragon relics that you can get. And these are very powerful items that you can get in the game. These are all of your dragon scale armor and dragon bone swords, your dragon plate helmet, and so on. So a nice other little deck of cards there for loot. So yeah, a lot of loot. There's also these small cards here, and these are story rewards. So as you complete main quests, as you complete important quests, you will be told to draw a certain number. And so far, this goes from small card 1 to small card 140. And my character has one of those right now. I was told to draw this Marash's sword there, but I am actually not using that sword because I prefer my iron battle axe. The 4th thing I like is actually the campaign system. So the base game here comes with, I think, 2 campaigns. We have campaign 1, the Blades, and we have campaign 2, the Civil War. And each one of those campaigns is 3 chapters. And the reason I like the campaign system in this game is that it is short and you can easily complete it in just a few sessions. Maybe comparable to Sleeping Gods in the length of the campaign, maybe a little bit shorter even than Sleeping Gods. But it's a kind of campaign system that I want to engage with. It doesn't feel overwrought. It doesn't feel like they padded it out with a bunch of grinding and a bunch of unnecessary things. It moves at a good pace. And kind of right when you're ready for one of the chapters to end, it ends. And it's good. The Dawnguard expansion also comes with a 3-chapter campaign. And then the From the Ashes smaller expansion comes with a handful of little kind of mini campaigns that you can seed into any of the campaigns that you are playing to add some more variety. And I think that is really cool too. The next thing that I really do like about this game is tangentially related to the campaign system, and that is the free roam system. So if you don't feel like playing one of the campaigns, you can actually turn to the end of the rulebook here and go into free roam mode. And this allows you to just explore the world of Skyrim, going on random quests and having random events. And it's really cool. I wish all campaign games had a free roam mode. This is something that I have wanted for a long time because you guys know that I don't like a lot of really long drawn out campaign board games, especially ones that are focused on story. I prefer ones that are focused more on character progression and me creating the story as I am playing. And so free roam mode allows you to create a subset of your events deck, a subset of your quest deck, and you can mix those together and you can just start playing and unlocking quests and going to various NPCs, upgrading your character, and just having a fun free roam mode in a lot of the ways that I play the board game or the video game of Skyrim, where I've said it before, but I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours into the video game of Skyrim, and I've never beaten it because I basically play it in free roam mode for many, many, many years. And I really like that. I appreciate the heck out of this game having that kind of non-campaign play that you still get to engage in all of the adventure and all of the things that make this game good. I also really like the combat in this game. It's pretty quick and it does have some interesting decisions to make. So when you fight off against a monster, you will draw a certain monster, you will draw an encounter card, and that monster will usually have some kind of level and it will tell you the kind of beast it is. It will also tell the armor that the monster has. So this bear here has 4 points of light armor, and light armor blocks light damage. So if you want to face off against this bear and have the best chances of winning, you want to either do magic damage or you want to do heavy damage. If you do light damage, then the bear will always block 4 points of light damage, but it will also knock down each time you do damage, it will take at least 1 point of armor damage. However, if you do heavy damage straight to the bear, then that goes through and you do damage directly to the armor. It's a really neat system. It's a little convoluted to wrap your head around, but once it does, I think it makes a lot of sense and it is a lot of fun. So if I were to face off against this bear, the first thing you could do is if you were playing as a stealth archer, and I'm not, that's really weird. I know I almost always play as a stealth archer. So does everybody. Haha, meme, stealth archer. But the first thing that you could do is you could sneak attack. Now, I am a heavy armor wearing dude, so I can't do a sneak attack. If you are wearing any heavy armor, you can't sneak. If I was playing as an archer, then I could perform a sneak attack before I get to the actual round of combat. And all tests are done with 3 of these special D6, these custom D6. And to do a successful sneak attack, you need to get 3 of the successes there. And those are it's basically like rolling a 4, 5, or 6. So if I could do a sneak attack, I could go up to this bear and I have 2 circles and 1 diamond there. So I didn't quite make the sneak attack. However, I could spend some currency, or if I had a chance to reroll, I might be able to reroll this dice, or maybe spend an additional point of endurance, or if I had some kind of ability that would allow me to reroll, I could try to get that 3rd And no. Okay, so our sneaking phase completely fails. So then we enter into our normal round of combat here. Okay, so my combat here, I am going to be using my iron battle axe. And at the beginning of combat, you can always spend 1 point of endurance to swap out your gear. So if you need to make a quick switch because of the type of armor that the enemy has, you can do that. So we do have our armor cubes here. This is the yellow, this is the light armor, and we'll put that at the 4 mark for the bear. Now, the first thing you do is you see what the enemy is going to do, and you roll the enemy die, and then you look at the chart here. So an axe. So he is going to crush. And the crush does 2 heavy damage to me. Okay, that doesn't really bother me too much because I am wearing heavy armor that blocks 3 heavy damage. And I also have a +1 heavy damage from my iron battle axe. So I can block 4 points of heavy damage. However, if I block it all, I still lose 1 point of endurance. So really cool because endurance is a commodity. It is a resource that you have to manage while you are in combat. So once we know what the enemy is going to do, the next thing we do is if you have a follower, then the follower can make a free attack at this point. So you take that same die, you roll it, and I have the double swords. So my follower here, my Atronach, is going to cast a firebolt at the bear, and that is going to do either 2 heavy damage or 2 light damage. Now I want to do heavy damage because the bear can only block light damage. So that's 2 points of heavy damage to the bear. So we move his token down twice. So now the bear only has 2 HP, or he only has the ability to block 2 light damage. Okay, so let's go on to my Orismer here. Now I can do 3 different things with my iron battle axe. I can do a 2-handed chop, a 2-handed swing, or I can parry. If I was going to be taking a lot of damage, I might want to parry. I might want to block so I don't take that damage. I'm not really going to be taking any damage because I can block all of his heavy damage. And so I'm going to choose to do, I only really need to do 2 more points of damage to kill the bear. And so I'm going to do the swing. And the swing will cost me 1 point of endurance. So I lower my endurance, or my stamina, I think it's called. I keep calling it endurance, but I lower my stamina down 1. So I've used a point of stamina. I've also used another point of stamina to block all of the bear's heavy damage coming toward, or light damage, or heavy damage coming towards me. And now I roll my 3 d6. That's my normal test to get those successes that I need. However, I am skilled in 2-handed now, so now I have an additional d6. So now I just need to get 2 of those circles to do 2 points of damage. And oh, we didn't get it. We only got 1. Okay, that's really unfortunate because you usually have a pretty good chance of hitting those 4, 5s, or 6s basically. So I can spend another point of endurance to push and try to get 1 more circle. And there, we got it. All right, so we would do 2 more points of damage to the bear, thus killing the bear. And then we would get 1 point of experience. And then each of the players involved in the combat, if you were playing multiple heroes, multiple players, each one will get to choose one of the rewards, starting with the player who made the final blow. So I could draw something from the B deck there. And what did I get from the bear? The bear had, the bear was guarding a steel greatsword. That is actually a weapon that I might want. So I could take that and I could put that in my backpack to maybe use later, but I would probably want to go off questing to try to get some more enchantment, some more upgrade materials so that I could go back to a town and upgrade that sword to be more powerful. So yeah, it's pretty rare that I really get kind of jazzed and I like the combat in these kinds of games, but I really do like the combat in Skyrim. It's fun, it has good choices, it has good resource management, it's not overly long, and it can be quite deadly, and I've always had fun engaging in the combat. The main thing that I like about this game is the questing, is the adventure. And I think it does a fantastic job of emulating the kind of questing and adventure that I look for in an open world sandbox video game on my table. So when you start a campaign, you will usually be given a choice of certain cards that you can draw, certain cards that you can choose for your main quest. And there are a whole bunch of cards that I haven't chosen yet as I am starting these various main quests. And so there is a lot of replay value as well. So each character can have one main quest Right now, my main quest is in this second chapter of the first campaign is to ally myself with the cannibals. And so I've done that and I succeeded on that. And then I also I need to check out this trapped shelter. And so we have these various quest markers that are out on the board, and the colored quest markers, those are your character's quests. And then there are also these gray quest markers, and those are the world quests. And we'll talk about those in just a minute. I'm really glad that I bought these colored standee holders from Etsy, because they do a really good job of holding the tokens and making them visible on the map, because that is another problem with this map being so dark and it just kind of swallows up all of the various tokens. And so I have all of my tokens in these little standee holders, and it really does help me when I look at the map. But so this is at a certain location in Hallmark here. So that is one quest that I can go on. That's my main quest, trying to ally myself with these cannibals to get them to help me with a problem that's going on. And then each character can have 2 personal quests. And so right now I have these 2 personal quests, and one of my personal quests, I need to go up here to Solitude in order to complete that. Solitude is one of my favorite areas in all of video games. If I could live in any area in any video game, it would be Solitude in Skyrim. I love that city. And then I also have here in an area in Eastmarch here, I have another quest. So those are my 2 kind of personal quests that I am on. There are also over here, there are world quests. And as you draw different cards from the event deck, you will unlock world quests. And these quests, anybody who's playing can go on. And so this is a world quest over here that is in the Hold of Riften. And it has to do with the Thieves Guild. So there are the different guilds here. And as you are exploring, as you are having adventures in the various wilderness spaces and the various stronghold spaces, you will draw event cards from this deck. And these will lead you to all kinds of different NPCs and different quests. So you can meet a whole bunch of different NPCs and you can take on quests. Same as when you're in the stronghold, you can go on all of these different quests. The event deck that you will make up at the beginning of each chapter will have different world quests that you can unlock. And the quests do branch out. There are choices that you have to make. You will have objectives. And then depending on if you succeed or fail, you might unlock other cards that get added to the library while you are playing the game. Similar in the way that cards are added and taken out of the libraries of games like Fallout, the board game, and Arkham Horror 3rd edition, which I'm going to do a big kind of comparison video between all 3 of these games, because I think they do have a lot of similarities in how the card play works in the questing system. But yeah, the quests are really cool. I love just going off, heading into a direction like I do in the video game, stopping at a place, drawing a card. I might meet an NPC who wants me to go somewhere else or do something for them. And that will start this whole long kind of chain reaction event of various quests. A lot of the quests do have a fail forward mechanism where you don't just end the game because you failed the quest, but something else, something interesting happens because you failed the quest. A lot of the quests will have you do these various objectives here, and those are various kinds of skill checks. So you will always roll, again, you will always roll your 3d6. You can add, if you had the speech skill, you could add an additional die. And then it's telling you what kind of results you need. So I would need 2 of the circles, and then I can spend experience to push. So if I failed at that, but I didn't, I got 3 circles. But if I failed, I could spend a point of experience to re-roll and try to get that final success. And then you would flip the card over, and if you succeeded, you would do that. If you failed, you would do that. And then you would usually get something else here, or the rest of the card would tell you to add more quest cards to your personal quest so you can keep playing the game. Related to the questing system is the threat system, is the timer for this game. Now, you guys know that I'm usually not a big fan of timers in games, especially strict timers that make it hard for me to experience the world, that make it hard for me to explore the world, because I'm constantly having to deal with threat and I feel like I never have enough time to do the fun things that I want to do in the game. That is not the case with Skyrim. I think Skyrim has the single best threat and timing mechanism that I have ever seen in an adventure game. It's fantastic because it allows the players to make a choice of how the timer is being used, and it encourages you to engage with the game because every time you engage with the game, you actually get more time. How does that work? As you are playing, the first player on every turn, and if you are playing solo, it's every other turn, you draw an event card. And the event card will have you put out a number of threat tokens. And these threat tokens will act as certain things depending on what scenario you are playing. But usually these are a timer. And it is up to the players to determine where they want to place these. One of the places that you can place these are the various strongholds. And as you place the threat tokens on this track, certain bad things will happen in those strongholds. The first time you place a threat marker on a stronghold, it becomes unstable and you can't access the market. You can't buy things in that hold. The second quest token that you might put on a stronghold means that the stronghold is closed. Things are getting really bad and you have to pay an additional 5 gold to enter that stronghold to engage with it. If you place a third threat marker on that stronghold, it becomes closed and people are rioting and things are going really bad, and you add an additional threat token every turn. So you really want to manage your threat in your strongholds while you are playing. Additionally, every single quest in this game can hold a certain number of threat tokens. So as you are exploring, as you are gaining more personal quests, as you are unlocking more world quests, and as you are going on your main quest, you can actually choose to assign threat tokens to those quests. So my personal quests here, each one of those can hold 4 threat tokens. My main quest can hold 4. If you ever put the final quest, the final threat token on a quest, then you have failed that quest. And then you turn it over and you will go to the failure. You really don't want to fail your main quest. Although that may not end the game immediately, something bad will usually happen and it can set up a kind of snowballing effect of bad things that will carry on into the next chapter. But that fail forward mechanism also does apply to the main quest. There is a way if too many main quests or a certain main quest fails that you do face a game over, but that's pretty rare. But I love the threat management in this game. If you have a whole bunch of threat on a quest and you complete it, then that quest gets discarded. So as you start putting more threat tokens on each one of your quests, it kind of lights a fire under your feet as the player to solve that quest so you can discard it. The timing mechanism and the threat mechanism in this game, they push you as the player to engage with the game. It encourages you to actually play the fun parts of the game, and that is great. I actually want to employ a similar threat system to my kind of sandbox house rule version of Runebound 2nd Edition. I think that would be really, really cool. So it really does feel like an open world video game. And right now in my game, I am over here in the Reach. I'm at a cave. I just went through a cave and did some dungeon exploration. And again, I do have these various quests out on the board. And there is this world quest here. And so there are a whole bunch of things I can do. I can continue my quest for the morning after. I can explore and try to find this ruinous trap. I can go to a trapped shelter. I can head over to Riften to join the Thieves Guild and see what's going on there. I could just head in a random direction and have a random encounter. There are all kinds of things that you can do on every turn. And because that timing mechanism isn't ticking away too strictly, you always feel like you have the freedom to go on adventure. So a turn is pretty simple. You will move up to 4 spaces and then you will land on a space and you will encounter that space. That is basically the turn. When you are playing solo, you will draw an event card every other turn. So on this turn right here, I am not drawing an event card. And so I would go into my movement phase right now, and I can move 4 spaces. Let's say that I just want to, let's say I want to head over to Riften and see what's going on in the Thieves Guild. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I could go there. I could move 1, 2, 3, 4. I could go to a cave. When you land on one of these cave spaces or these barrow spaces or these tower spaces, that's when you can go into dungeon diving. And the dungeon diving is probably the part of the gameplay that I like the least. It's really basic. You basically just go through a series of encounters with the cards in the dungeon. You don't really do any kind of exploration in the dungeon. So that's a little bit of a bummer. What is cool is the system here where as you level up and as you face lower level cards in each dungeon, those lower level cards get discarded and the dungeons kind of level up with you. And I think that's really cool. It does keep the threat at a certain level for encounters as you are progressing through the campaign. And that's pretty cool. But let's just say I want to move 3 and I want to go and have an adventure in the wilderness here. Let me shuffle up the wilderness deck here. And then I will draw an adventure card here. The hidden stash. Someone stashed a chest here. The lid is stuck, but there's a tattered diary beside it. Okay, so I gain 1 resource of my choice. I am going to gain an additional ore. So I will take an ore here and add that ore to my character card. And then I can try to pry this open. So to pry this open, I can roll 3d6 plus lockpicking. Okay, so I have a lockpicking skill. So I get 4d6 and I'm looking for 2 triangles. The triangles are the hardest to get. Those are basically like, actually the triangles are like 5s or 6s. The diamonds are 6s. So I'm looking for 2 of those triangle symbols in order to pry open this chest here. And I got 1. Okay, so I could spend one of my plants to push and try to get another. Let's see if I can do that. And no, I missed that. So I would have failed that. If I succeeded, then I would have gained 3 gold. And then I can discard this card, remove it from the game, or I could shuffle it back in there and not do that. But if I choose to discard this card from the game, then I can add card 101. And card 101 will be a quest. I'm not going to spoil that. I will keep that hidden for you guys. But that's how a typical kind of turn works. If you land on a space or if a roaming monster lands on your space, then you have to enter into combat. And you will look at the roaming monster, you will look at the number there at the bottom, and you will draw that number card from the library, and you will have a combat encounter with that particular monster. If I finally made my way to Riften, then I could do this world quest here. We're preparing for the storm. The Thieves Guild in Riften is hoarding items in case they are needed. So there are resources here, and I need to try to convince them to allow me to get into those resources. And then that might unlock other quests or other adventures and so on. I really do feel like when I am playing this game that I am playing an open world adventure game, and it gives me that feel. And the final thing is, once you get the rules down, once you learn everything, once you get everything going, the game runs really smoothly. And it's super fun to play. I have loved my time spent playing the Skyrim adventure board game. I'm thinking about it when I'm not playing it. I wonder what do I have to do to encounter some of these cards, because there are so many cards that I haven't seen as I am playing it. I think there's a lot of replay value. You might look at the game with the main expansion Dawnguard and see, okay, there's only 3 campaigns and they're short, and each one of those campaigns is only 9 chapters. So that's basically 9 scenarios that you're playing. But each time you play, different things will happen. The way that you build your character really does change things, because you will have access to different skills and access to different abilities to overcome quests. You will have better chances of unlocking other side quests. And it's just a real joy to play. It has that kind of sense of adventure that I am always looking for in these kinds of games. Like I said, my only real criticism when it comes to the gameplay is the dungeon exploration. It's kind of a bummer. It's not very engaging. However, like the Skyrim video game, there are a lot of players who are making mods for this. They are making fan-made expansions. And one of those expansions is a new way to use your dungeon cards and a new way of exploring the dungeons. And that is on BGG, and it looks awesome. I can't wait until they are finished with that. I'm definitely going to spend the resources to print out the things to use that expansion. I think it looks really cool. Another user is making a whole bunch of new wilderness and settlement encounter cards. So I'm going to be printing those out, and then you can have a whole bunch of other adventures. I think even though Modifius has kind of dropped the ball on this game, and I think Modifius has been poor stewards of this game, I don't really expect anything more from them for this game. I'm pretty sure they've kind of washed their hands of this game. It's out, they've gotten their money, and they've taken off. But I think the fans will appreciate the game enough to continue adding life to it, and maybe the fans will be in charge of the long tail. So yeah, so that was a very long review of Skyrim, the adventure game. A game with a big butt, a game with a lot of issues, a game that's hard to get played, a game that is way too expensive for what you get. But it is also a game that I really, really do love. So, all right, you guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this review. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.